Blacklist time was a fact. That I was a suspect got around early enough. For a strange reason, I survived that for a while. What finally brought it to a climax was when Zanuck came to me and said, "You're never going to work again here. Now I'm going to make an admission." I don't think I've ever told this to anybody. This was at a very critical moment when Zanuck pushed this book in my hand and said, "You're leaving, you're getting out of here, you're going to London, you're going to make this because it's going to be probably the last picture you're ever going to make. And get the script out fast and start with the most expensive scenes so that they got the studio on a hook." I began without having read the book, and only read it much, much later, because there was no time. We had to get that script going, and I was under this pressure. And I think it was Bruce Goldstein who finally found the book and sent it to me. There was a whole other story. Another story. And when I was in London not long ago talking about this film, they said, "Did you know how angry the author, a man's name is Gerald Kirsch, was with the film?" And I said, "Well, I'm sure he's right." I never read it. The British press didn't treat this film kindly, saying that this London of mine that we saw, that he said, I made it up. Well, actually, everything that was in the film was shot there. The man who showed me these places in London was Percy Hoskins, dear, wonderful, cheery, bubbly man who worked with Scotland Yard.
Hey, Harry, 3 live ones. What's it worth to you?
Depends on how much you know.
Depends on how much you'll go.
I invented nothing. It was all there.
Where did you obtain this license, ma'am? I'm afraid this is not in order. I shall have to take it up and deliver it to the authorities at Bow Street. I'm sure you'll be able to explain everything at the police court.
Most of the casting was not my doing at all. I didn't know the London scene. There was this wonderful man who was Douglas Fairbanks Jr. My God. Who had a big job with Fox in London, and he did most of the casting for me. And I especially was pleased by smaller parts. Guys who worked a day or two.
You all right, sir?
Yes, I'm all right.
Jerry's phoning for the police.
Oh, never mind. Tell them to clear up the mess.
That's a bit of an ape.
I knew, of course, of Sullivan.
A very particular and dear friend of mine.
Yes.
I did not know of Cookie Withers.
What is it, Pet?
I'm leaving you, Phil.
Sullivan was wonderful.
Helen.
You'll be all right. A week will go by, a month. You'll be all right.
And Googie was a delight to work with. Great fun. She was Googie.
I've been making plans for a long time, Phil. Now I'm set. I'm in business with Harry Fabian.
No, Helen. You don't know what you're walking into.
I know what I'm walking out of.
I was once so honored by the whole crew because there's one guy we didn't like very much. And he was the guy that reports activities and what you're doing while you lost an hour here, an hour there. And I don't know how it happened during lunchtime. How brought it? I said, let's wrestle, you and me. And we did. And he was a tough guy. But I was full of total resentment, made it strong, and I won. And the old man came and put my hand up, and that was a moment of glory. Zanuck wanted me to cast an actor who knew how to wrestle or could appear like a great hulky type. And I said I wanted a wrestler who could learn to act a bit. And I held out. And he actually put friends of mine on the plane. I said, take them back, because I had an image. Now, this is one of the stories, it doesn't make sense, it can't be believed, but that's my story. I had an image of the character in the film, and he was the champion of the world when I was a boy. And I had never seen a picture of him, but I said, I know what he looks like. And Zanuck said, who do you want? I said, I want Stanislaus Zabisco. He said, he's dead. A friend who was a reporter from the Daily News wrote and said, I heard you're looking for Zabisco. He has a chicken farm in New Jersey. I said, do me a favor, make a snapshot of me and send it to him quick, which he did. God, you there? That was a face I had imagined and seen. And he came, and I meet a very cultured gent, spoke I don't know how many languages, and he's the guy who would, of all the people in the cast and technicians, when I would go to an experimental theater, he's the man who would come with me. I remember how this man undertook the whole principle of acting, and he transformed it to something physical to make it more of his. I can't explain these mysterious things, but he gave a beautiful performance.
If you would say something good about Mr. Fabian, then I worry.
Papa, please, everybody in London knows what he is. He'll swindle you, he'll cheat you, he'll break your heart.
You have break my heart. He is my partner and my friend. Stay away from him, my son. When you lift your hand to him, you strike me.
And I remember any time that he worked in scenes without Widmark would come and watch and stand behind me to admire this wonderful, wonderful man. I remember he's playing this dying man. And again, whatever worked with him in a physical sense took over now.
A little fight make me tired.
And we saw his eyes got dimmer, and there's a physical coming of death.
To close window, please. Close window is cold.
And I remembered Widmark sinking his nails into me. He thought he was dying. Well, he was that kind of a man. And he lived to laugh and tell the story to all his friends. Hey, they thought he was going to die. I think Richard Widmark is one of the best actors who never was given opportunity to show you his range. And I must say he was kind of content to make that his life. And I remember After we made the film, I said, and what I believed, Dick, I'd like to do, you've worked in theaters, I want us to do Hamlet. Because I had this high regard for what this man was capable of.
I've been looking for you everywhere.
Zanuck called me and said, do you owe me one? I said, I sure do owe you one. And he said, I want you to cast Gene Tierney. I said, what part? Because the main character was Googie. He said, look, she's just had a bad time, a very unhappy love affair, and she's rather suicidal. And she needs us to help. Nobody could imagine Zanuck thinking like that. And I said, yeah, okay. And we wrote in the whole, made it a kind of another kind of a story. So she had a guy to go with her and whatnot. She was a delightful girl and got stronger after having worked. There's a long sequence at the end of the film where Dick kept on running. And there's a long area to cover from the top of a bridge along all the way down to where a boat was moored. Gene Tierney came in, and they had a long scene, a talk scene, and then her leaving, his running after her, being caught, and then drowned. And this was all in dawn. And they said, you know how many days of dawn you'll need to do that? Because you'd last an hour or so. I said, I can do it if you let me rehearse one day, and I'll shoot the rest in the next day. How do you do that? I said, with 6 cameras. And those 6 became more than 6 because once it was not used, it was put somewhere else. And we rehearsed it. And that whole thing is take one, from one camera to the other. And that was quite a day. A lot of shots, interior and exterior. And these 6 cameras in and out. We were all feeling so triumphant because they had to move fast and get the camera here and get the lamp there. It was wonderful. That was a nice experience. I think Franz and I had once worked before on some little B picture in MGM. I think he was really one of the good composers there. But when I came back from London, I was not allowed back on the lot, not allowed to have contact with my editor, and I contacted both by telephone and tell them what I felt and so on. And there was a few telephone conversations, and I was struck by the fact that neither of them said, well, can we come see you someplace? Well, I wouldn't do that to them if fear that they would say some weak thing that they feel unhappy about, because we were avoided like the plague. We were lepers. That's a plague. So that's what contact there was. I didn't know there was a film noir until I learned the term in France. When Rififi came out, they talked about how I was indebted to a film made by John Huston called Asphalt Jungle. and how they were similar. Now, again, word of honor, I had not seen Asphalt Jungle until I read about all of this. And I still don't see the connection, except for one story element. The guy's undone because he couldn't resist pretty girls or ladies. But that's all. I didn't know it had nothing to do with film noir. That term became more celebrated by just the pre-New Wave movement in France.
Phil! Now, please don't make a scene. You committed a crime against me, but it'll be Christo who'll punish you for betraying his father. Now, just leave quietly, like the little gentleman you've always wanted to be.
So you think you've done me in, huh? Well, you're wrong. I have a little information for you, dear boy. The old man, Gregorius, he's standing by me. Yes, he wants Nicholas to fight the Strangler. I made him want it. He wants it.
I somehow, in beginning to work on making a script, I felt a need for a friendship. Now, I can't tell you why or wrong, but yeah, well, maybe there are elements that justify that. And out of that grew characters who had this relationship to each other, dependence on each other, professionally and human terms. I can't explain much more than that. You know, sometimes we know not why we do. It just happens.